Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm Ben, and this basket of parts here is hopefully going to be a Hoxey electric aluminum guitar soon. Let's get into it. Well, yes, this is a pile of parts I've been assembling since about February, which is when I stumbled across the Hoxey website. Well, if you don't know anything about Hoxey, they're a company based out of Florida, and I think they got their start making replacement drop-in aluminum necks for Fender, Charvel, things like that. And eventually they got into body work, and I think that's right around the time I started paying more attention to them. And as soon as I saw they had a T-style body and a neck, I thought, this could actually be a pretty fun build. Now I'll admit, I probably could have built this thing about 3 months ago or so, but I've been a little intimidated just because it actually has to work. It's really straightforward, but for whatever reason, there's just been this hang up in my head, like, I'm gonna forget something, I'm gonna do this video, and midway through the video, I'm gonna forget something major, and then there goes the video, and then I gotta come back, and it seemed like a daunting task anyway, but I kind of double-checked, triple-checked everything, and I think now it's ready to get going. So let me go over the parts that I got real quick for this thing, and then I'll assemble it. If something pops up during the assembly, I'll roll the camera, but I'm not gonna, do that fast-forward thing where you watch me build it over the next 3 hours or whatever. Well, first off, let's start with the body. Now, as you can see, I went with a T-style or Telecaster style body here, and the general sort of specifications that I chose were kind of like a Fender thin line in the sense that I'm going with 2 humbucker sized pickups, 2 volumes, 2 tones, and then a tune-o-matic style bridge down here. And then I opted to do the F-hole just to sort of complete the look. But you can actually select a few different things if you'd like. I believe they can do single coils or a Telecaster style bridge. And they pre-drill it, pre-cut out all the holes and all that stuff, so it's actually really convenient. And another thing that's really convenient is all the holes for the bridge are already pre-threaded, which should make this assembly pretty straightforward. Now let me show you the inside of this body. It's actually all hollowed out here, as you can probably see there. And really there's just a few bracing points which double as what is your bridge mounts, which is actually really convenient. Now one thing I have to say is the back plate for this body is 27 different machine screws holding this on there, which is a lot of screws. So obviously that's why it's not on there right now, because I just wanted to save time with this video, because it took a good minute to get all of those off of there. Now just so you're aware, the body set me back $650, and that's the baseline price. I didn't really actually pay for any of these options. Those are standard with the price. But you can get the body anodized black or red, and that would set you back an additional couple $100. But I kind of want to just keep the body bare bones because I went crazy on the neck, and let's get into that actually. So the baseline neck cost $285. This set me back actually $785 for the neck because, like I said, I went crazy with the options. I just kept adding stuff, and then by the time I saw the final price tag, that's when I knew I had to stop and just go pretty bare bones with the body. But I did add things like the inlays, the side inlays, the nut, that all added a price to it. And then the backside I had it brushed aluminum and anodized black, and that added some cost to it. And I think the single biggest fee was that I had the neck weight relieved. Now what that means is they actually take out all of the metal pretty much all the way almost to the nut inside of here. I actually have a video where I stuck a guitar cable in there to see how long it went. And you can see here that when I pull it out, it's almost, a 1.5 feet of 2 bore holes that go through it and weight relieve it. So a significant amount of weight removed from the neck. So hopefully that should make it a more balanced guitar. Now, in case you're wondering, there is no truss rod in the aluminum neck here. And I asked them about this, and they said it's so strong that you don't really need it. I believe them that it is. I guess my only question is, what happens if it does start to warp, or if you actually do need it to have a little bit more relief? How do you adjust it? So I guess we'll find out when we do this build. Oh yeah, and one more thing I want to add is this headstock is a Kolos, is that how it's pronounced? K-O-L-O-S-S replacement headstock. Now when I made this order, I had just assumed that Hoxey had named their headstock the Kolos headstock, so stupid me, I was just like, that's kind of different than a Fender headstock. Let's do that. And it wasn't until much later that I realized that no, this was a drop-in neck for a Kolos aluminum guitar. And I guess the aluminum kit guitars have a wood neck, and then this would make the whole package aluminum. I don't really follow those guitars, so I don't really know much about them. But anyway, yes, so I have this Kolos style neck on this Telecaster style body. And I've been assured by Cam Hoxey that the way that they actually have the neck holes drilled into the neck. It'll actually fit on any of their bodies. So it's a pretty versatile system. So we'll get into that here in a little bit too. Now let's talk about the stuff that makes noise, because that's going to add a really nice dimension to this guitar. So when it comes to pickups, obviously I had the pick of the litter. I could do whatever I wanted, but I wanted to keep it somewhat simple, something that I already know how it sounds, so that I could compare how much the guitar actually affects the tone of these pickups. So I went with Mojo Tone P90 and a humbucker, P94s, whatever you want to call them. And you know, they make great pickups. Their P90s are all hand wound. And I just wanted to see how those sound in this guitar. If I don't like them, it's easy enough to take them out and put in something else. And I was thinking maybe Seth Lovers could be a good option as well. Now I could have sat there and hand wired this entire guitar, but to be honest with you, I just didn't want to do that. So what I did is I went to the Throwback website and I picked out a Les Paul style harness. And what I went with was the CTS 500K audio taper pots with 2 Bumblebee paper and oil caps, which I think should go pretty good with these pickups. And hopefully we'll get to find that out soon. Now this would have been a pretty straightforward install with these as well, except I didn't put any thought into the fact that the switch that came with this harness is obviously too tall to fit in the T-style body. So just by a little bit, just by like a 1/16 of an inch, which means I have to do a little bit more soldering than I was planning on doing, but that's not such a big deal. And when it comes to the other options on this guitar, I went with pretty straightforward things like the knurled black metal knobs for the controls. I also went with black strap buttons, kind of going for a aluminum body, all blacked out hardware on this thing. For the bridge, now this is something that I had to deduce from the website of what was the bridge threads that they were using, and I saw that they were selling a lot of Epiphone parts under their accessories. So I kind of just assumed that that's what they're doing, and I picked up a Tone Pros drop-in Nashville style bridge. Just a basic tune-o-matic, but it should do the trick here. It's pre-notched because I didn't want to deal with that either. We'll see how that pays off. Now for the tuners, what I really wanted was some open gear tuners because I like the way those look. And at first I had gone with the hip shot tuners, which they're protected, but the gear is exposed. Well, you can see how that went here in this video. Yeah, me being impatient, I just ordered some, not even thinking about what side of the headstock they would go on. And of course, I got the wrong side of the headstock, and I couldn't find the correct side for these hip shots, so had to send those back. Went to the Hoxey website, and on their website, they recommend getting these Ratio brand tuners. I never used Ratios. They're pretty interesting in the sense that each tuner has a different ratio. To give you an example, the low E is 39:1, the A is 24:1, the D is 20:1, the G is 35:1, the B is 20:1, and the high E is 12:1. I'm okay with 12:1s or 18:1s, but these fit, so I'm going to go with these. Well, that should be all the components. Now the only thing that's left is for me to actually assemble all this stuff and solder it correctly. So I'm going to get doing that. I'll turn the camera off. If something pops up, I'll roll it again and tell you what that is. But hopefully next time you see me, these pieces will be a working guitar in one piece. Or maybe there will be a tragic soldering accident and you'll never hear from me again. Only time will tell. All right, everyone, I'm still alive, as you can see. It's been about 2 hours. I've gone through a bag of Jelly Bellies and 2 Lime LaCroix, but here is the guitar fully put together. Looks pretty sharp, if you ask me. Everything went together pretty good. I didn't have any problems. I did plug it in. It makes noise, which means my soldering, at the very least, is passable. The neck feels great. I knew that going into it because I messed around with it before I put it together, but this brushed feeling is super smooth to my hand, which is really awesome. The fretwork is really good too. I hadn't even really paid attention to that until I had just jammed around with it for a little bit here. I do have a couple areas of concern. My first one would be this bridge pickup. So right now it's pretty much maxed out in that body. Debating maybe I get rid of the spring and put in like a thinner rubber spacer or something just to get it that much closer because there's nowhere else for it to go at this point. My second concern is this little hole back here behind the neck. And I don't know if that's because, like I said, this is a coalesced neck, if maybe that's normally covered by bodywork or something, but I'd be concerned if like a finger or something might get stuck in there, or maybe my thumb slips in it. I don't know, maybe I'm just being paranoid. And then my third area of concern, which is something I had before I even purchased this guitar, is how is heat going to affect this body? Because I know that composite bodies aren't so much affected by that, but obviously with wood instruments, we are affected by that. And I know sometimes metal has a crazy ability to expand and contract more than wood, so it'll be interesting to see how this thing is. But that being said, it's almost perfectly intonated despite the fact that I haven't really touched anything. I do need to mess around with just a few strings, but I want to let everything settle for a day or two before I go in there and tweak it just a little bit. As far as other specs on this guitar, in case you're curious, The weight of it is 7.46 pounds, which is a little bit higher than I had thought it was going to be, but that's okay. It's not bad by any means. Now, I did take some readings of the Mojotone P90 pickups. For the bridge pickup, I'm reading a 7.54. For the neck, I'm reading a 7.09. And then in the middle there, I'm reading a 3.66. So these pickups are hitting right where they're supposed to, which is further evidence that I've probably wired this thing correctly. Now, if you're curious about what this neck is reading at, well, the nut is reading at a 1.68, which is what it's supposed to be reading at. The first fret I'm reading a 0.76, and down at the 12th fret I'm getting a 0.81. So it's a very thin neck going all the way through, almost till you get to the body, which is kind of awesome and very surprising to me that it's got very little rise. I mean, you can't even really feel that difference. The width side to side you can feel, but the actual width this way is nearly imperceptible. Now, if there's one thing I was going to say that I wasn't a fan of on this guitar, it's this strap button location. I don't know why it's not just an inch more over here, because if I put on a strap right there, it's going to bunch up where my thumb is, and even as it is, my thumb is almost touching the button right there. So that's something I would change. And then if I could do this guitar again, I don't know if I'd keep this F-hole. I guess I'll just have to wait and see what I think of it in a couple months. Now let me do the sound test here, and you guys can hear what it sounds like, and let me know your thoughts on that. right, guys, thanks for checking out my Hoxey build. Let me know in the comments what you would do differently if you were going to change the knobs or the pickups or maybe the harness, maybe the style, maybe you'd go with single coils. I don't know. Everybody's got a different idea of how they'd want to do this. For me, I think right now I like it, but I'll say this. Everything added together is about $2,250, which is not a small amount of money. Could you find a better guitar for $2,250? Probably. The jury's definitely out right now on if it was worth it or not to build this guitar, but I'll say this much. It's really fun to have a guitar that's super unique. That aspect of it, I'm really excited about. Thanks for checking out my video, guys. I will talk to you next time. I'd like to give a quick thanks to Stringjoy for helping me provide strings for these guitars. If you're interested in getting a custom set of strings to your own specifications, check them out because they're pretty awesome. All right, next time.